Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV HQ. I'm Natalie MacDonald. Now up next in the Dukascopy TV studio to discuss Switzerland is Osmond Plummer of Wealth Coaching. Osmond, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thanks for the invite. Pleasure to be here.
Now, starting with Swiss inflation, this remained unchanged in August for the second month running, according to data released last Friday. This follows more than 18 months of deflation. What are the inflation versus deflation pros and cons for the Swiss economy? Or are the changes so minimal that it doesn't really make that much difference?
The changes have actually been surprisingly small given the strength of the underlying Swiss currency. The deflation has largely been imported. It's imported goods that are becoming less expensive as the currency effects have gone through. Deflation is classically regarded as a bad idea because it tends to make consumers defer purchases. However, from my perspective as a consumer, it feels like a good idea because you're paying less for the goods sold. The change is if you have slight deflation, it's not a major risk. If you have a large level of deflation, that can be very damaging for an economy. Switzerland has actually survived remarkably well throughout this whole economic crisis. Whether it will continue to, we shall wait and see. But at the moment, it has survived well. The slight increase of inflation to zero, if you like, or to 0.1%, is generally regarded as a relatively healthy sign that things are doing quite well.
Looking slightly more broadly, recent European GDP figures defied expectation and came out better than expected, highlighting an economy returning to health. How will this bode for the Swiss economy and, more importantly, perhaps the SNB's commitment to the Swiss franc cap?
Yes, I think returning to health is pushing it slightly, a little less close to death's door may be a better way of putting it, but yeah, the figures are out there. I think that is something that is positive in general for the Swiss economy. There's a lot of exports from Switzerland into Europe, and also if that can help to strengthen the euro, I think that would be something that the Swiss economy would benefit from. The currency remains stronger than it should be on a purchasing power parity basis and on many measures. So if the euro can actually gain against the Swiss franc, that would be positive for the Swiss economy and something I think the Swiss National Bank would be very happy to see happen. I think the peg, the informal peg at 120 is there absolutely and completely, but I really feel that 130, the government would be quite happy with that.
And lastly, I just want to touch on a recent report which highlighted that Switzerland has topped a global competitiveness report looking at economic competitiveness for the 5th year running. With increasing pressures being placed on the Swiss banking industry, though, do we see it taking that same spot 1 year from now?
The Swiss economy is competitive from all the points of view of being open to competition, being open to other people, being easy to do business in. It's easy to set up businesses. It's easy to do these sorts of things. One thing, though, that will remain an issue with the Swiss economy potentially is the expense of actually hiring people to do that business. You have trade workers, you have qualified workers, but they're expensive. And you see international companies looking at potentially reducing their exposure to Swiss employees purely because they can be cheaper in other parts of the world. However, from a regulatory point of view, an administrative point of view, I think Switzerland will remain very open economically. The banks, a lot of pressure on them, they will still be there. Interestingly, in that report, Swiss banks were listed as the 25th in terms of the security and safety of those banks. And any major banking crisis, of course, would have a significant knock-on effect. But at the moment, it doesn't seem like that's imminent at this rate. So I would expect it to see technical competitiveness maintained, but you will always have this issue of the cost of Switzerland. It's an expensive place to do business.
These pressures are something we're going to be talking about a lot, I feel, in the coming weeks. Osmond, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. You're very welcome. That's all for now, but we'll be back shortly with more exclusive interviews for you, so don't go away. Goodbye.